Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Jason. My channel is Jason by My Music. I'm happy you're here. I hope you guys have been getting some use out of the tips I've shown you in my first few videos. Those exercises on the odd and even number frets and the different finger combinations. They will get your fretting hand, your left hand in most of your cases, limbered up and moving more efficiently and more comfortably. So when we start, learning scales, you'll be able to whiz through those a lot easier than if you're starting those from scratch. So I think practicing those different exercises I showed you in my first few videos can be very beneficial if you give it 5-10 minutes a day. So we're going to take it up a notch today. I'm excited to get going on, this is kind of the intro to the cage system. We're going to dip our toe in with the first shape, which is the E form. This major bar chord that some of you may know. I know you've seen people play it and you've definitely heard people play it. I think all my years of playing guitar and learning tunes for cover bands and writing my own stuff and teaching, the E form and the A form from our cage system are definitely the two that you're going to use the most. So just to recap, the cage system, what the cage system is it's a way to take these open position chords of C, A, G, E, and D. We can take those out of open position and move them around the neck. Essentially what we're doing is the nut right here that all the strings make contact with, our first finger is taking the place of that nut when we take these chords out of open position. If my first finger is now taking the place of the nut, I can get the same effect by barring my first finger across all 6 strings on the same fret, right? Then I'm able to play chords like this. That's the G form, the C form, the A form, the D form, and the E form, okay? We're starting with the E form because rather than having to learn the whole chord, we're only going to start with the top 2 notes. So if I play an E form, an E shape major bar chord, A in this example, because I'm rooted on the 5th fret, that note under my finger is A. Rather than having to worry about my 2nd, 3rd, 4th finger and getting each finger on the correct string and on the correct fret, I'm dropping everything away but these top 2 notes. That's the root and the 5th. That's what a power chord is. Where am I getting those numbers? So in a major scale, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you're back to the same note, the A, the octave. So there are 8 notes, but actually, 2 of them are the same note. So the root or first note and the 5th note, that's our power chord. Okay, that's a perfect 5th. You've heard countless blues shuffles, right? You've heard this in rock and blues music. That's what they're playing, a root and a 5th. You've heard stuff like this. Okay, notice the shape of this chord I'm playing does not change. I'm just moving it around the neck and rooting it on different notes, okay? That's the genius of the cage system and of this chord especially, and this chord. If you learn the major and minor of that shape and the major and minor of that shape, you're going to be good to go. The C form, the G form, and the D form, you'll still use, but you're definitely going to use the E form and the A form more than anything. And out of those 2 chords, all you need is 2 notes there out of our E shape, and here's our A shape, which is rooted now on the A string. These 2 notes. See that? There's the whole chord. Look at the first 2 notes. It's a root and a 5th. Here's the E form chord. Here's the E form chord. Look at the first 2 notes, a root and a 5th. Okay? Eventually we want to add our second and fourth fingers, and if you can add that pinky to grab that octave right from the get-go, that's going to thicken that sound up a little bit. You'll have this instead of this. That's just 2 notes, and here's 3. Kind of indistinguishable. You get the gist of it with just the 2. But where you really will notice it is like through an amp with some distortion on an electric guitar. A power chord just sounds brilliant. That is the sound of rock, right? You guys have heard a bazillion songs where they're just probably playing power chords the whole time, you know? The Ramones and bands like that, AC/DC, they made a career of that stuff and wrote some amazing songs. So we're going to start with the E form. Form and shape I use interchangeably. When I say E form or E shape, I'm talking about that chord. It's based on this E in open position. Now imagine my finger takes the place of the nut, right? It goes here, my first finger. There's the same shape. I'm just using different fingers to play those 3 notes. Hopefully you guys see that. I'm using my first, second, and third. There. When I move it, my first is now not available to play this note because my first has to bar across the fretboard, right? My first is now acting as the nut down here. So what do? I shift down. My second finger plays that note that my first finger was on before. My third finger plays the note my second finger was on, and my fourth finger, my pinky, plays the note that my third finger was on. Okay, do you see the same shape? Hopefully that clicks and you get that concept that that's all we're doing with Cage is we're moving these shapes, E, C, G, A, D, out of open position, and we're moving them around the neck. So that might be a lot to digest. So today, guys, I would just like you to start getting familiar with just the root and the fifth. You can use your pinky for the fifth. You can also use your third finger, whatever's more comfortable. Some of you down on this end of the guitar where the frets are wider apart, it might feel more comfortable using your first and your pinky. When you're way up here and the frets are closer together, you might be able to grab that with a first and a third. That might be more comfortable because you're not as scrunched up here if you're playing your pinky and all your fingers are scrunched in between these 3 frets. So it gives you a little bit of room. And if we can free our pinky up, like I said, we can play stuff like that, right? That's the eventual goal, but for now, do whatever's more comfortable for you. We're going to go odds and evens again, so start on the first fret. And what we also need to do with this, we just want to hit the 2 notes or 3 notes if we're playing the octave that we're fretting. We don't want to do that, right? There's nothing down here. We're just going to be hitting open strings, and we don't want to lay our finger flat and hit that. That's a legit chord, but not for what we're doing here. I just want the root and the fifth. Okay, so I would set the metronome, quarter notes at a comfortable pace like we were doing before. Start with odds, and we're going to downstroke just these 2 notes, so it'll sound like this. Then we go up to the 3rd fret, and the 5th. Look at the shape. The shape does not change. 7th fret, the shape is the same. We are just rooting on a different fret each time. Our first finger is rooting on a note on the E string. This is all E string with the E form, okay? The E shape. Our root note is always going to be on this E string, okay? So 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and back down. And then go to evens, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, up to 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. When that starts getting comfortable, like before, if you watch my prior videos, I would speed up the metronome a little bit, just challenge yourself to get moving. I would also like you to start making targeted leaps bigger leaps instead of just moving 2 frets at a time. How we're going to do that is we're going to skip a fret. So if we're doing odds, we would normally go 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, right? This time we're going to go 1, we're going to skip 3, and we're going to go up to 5. Then we're going to skip 7, we're going to go up to 9. Okay? Then back down to 5, to 1. You could then go to the 3rd fret. Instead of going to 5, you're going to skip up to 7. From 7, instead of going to 9, you're going to go to 11. Okay? This is accomplishing 2 things. It's getting our hand used to picking the shape up and moving it and putting the shape back down while also having to adjust for the width. Okay, we're this wide up here. Down here we're this wide, right? So we've got to adjust our grip, our fingering a little bit depending on how high on the neck we are. It's also getting you to target a specific fret and make a jump like that. It's helpful to learn the shape, just how the chord feels, just kind of playing randomly wherever it lands. But by targeting a specific fret, we're starting to train that muscle. You know, if we're playing together, once we learn notes and you say, I'm in F and I need to go to B flat, you got to jump up here. That's a B flat, right? That's F. We haven't got into learning note names yet. I like to start with the odds and evens because you're only focusing on the technique. It's not the overload of like, well, I don't know the note names. Now I have 2 things to think about. We're going to get into that really quickly. We're at that point where we're going to start learning the note names. But this exercise and skipping around, skipping over the 3rd fret to the 5th, and then skipping the 7th to the 9th, we're targeting that specific fret with our root finger. In this case, it's our index finger, right? So we're not just playing willy-nilly wherever our finger happens to land. We're consciously thinking, I'm going from the 1st to the 5th, like we're aiming at it, right? That's going to be very helpful once we start learning note names and we have to go from C to F sharp or from G to B flat, right? We got to target those specific notes. So we're going to start building that muscle of being able to kind of hop around the neck, targeting a specific fret and keeping that chord shape intact. All right? What we're doing is just lifting both fingers off the fretboard and moving it to where we want it to go. Try not to do this. Try not to take it completely off and then reset it. It's basically just, you're basically just sliding it down to where it needs to be, right? Wherever we're going. So try to keep the chord intact. It's like a claw shape with the 1st and pinky or the 1st and 3rd, whatever you decide to use, whatever feels more comfortable for starters. If you use the 3rd finger for starters, that 3rd finger then is already going to be where it needs to be once we form the full chord, which is this. If you have 1st and 3rd, what we're going to do next is drop our pinky in and our 2nd finger, and then bar these last 2 with our 1st finger, and we have our E-form major bar chord, our E-form caged chord, right, that we took from this open E. So if you can do 1st and 3rd, that's ideal, but do whatever feels good. I do both still. All these years later, I still will play. I'll play with my pinky sometimes. I'll do all 3 mostly. So give that a shot, guys. That's the E form, and then next time we'll talk about the A form, the A shape. Again, these are all major chords to start out with, but another cool thing about a power chord is it doesn't imply major or minor because we're not dealing with a 3rd. The 3rd is what gives a chord its major or minor quality. You have a major 3rd and you have a minor 3rd, flat 3rd. Hear the difference? A major, happy. A minor, flat that 3rd. Now we're melancholy, right? Okay, that's all to come. Don't worry about that. My initial point was learning a root in a 5th is safe because it doesn't matter if the chords, you know, the keyboard player, the bass player is playing a minor 3rd, a minor chord. As long as you have a root in a 5th, that'll fit right in. It's very generic sounding as far as major, minor tonality, but it gets the essence of the chord across. Start with roots and fifths, do odds and evens, and then evens. Okay, up and down, and then when that's coming together, start skipping. You go to every other note. So you go first to fifth. Instead of fifth to seventh, you're going to go fifth to ninth. Okay, then you can come up to 11. Instead of going to ninth, you go 11 to 7, 7 to 3. Okay, and then do evens. 2 instead of 4, you're going to go to 6. Instead of 8, you're going to go to 10. You know what I'm saying? Just experiment with it, bounce around, see how it feels. Sometimes just sitting with your hand on your guitar, making that chord shape while you're watching TV or doing whatever else you can do at the same time is helpful, just to get your hand making that shape. You'll start grabbing it quicker and quicker the more you have your hand on your guitar. So I hope that helps. And next time we're going to talk about the A form of the power chord. And after that, we're going to get into the full E form, E-shaped chord, A-shaped chord, okay, with the cage system. Then we're going to learn a minor of each, which is really easy for the E form. All you got to do is lift your middle finger, and you got a minor. With the A form, it goes like this, which oddly enough, if you notice, is the same shape on the A string. The minor chord is the same shape as the major chord on the E string. Everything is just down a string, right? So that's one of those little cool connections you might make, is like, oh, that's the same, his hand is in the same shape when he's playing a major chord that's rooted on the E string, the E form major chord, as it is when he's playing a minor that's rooted on the A string. Same shape. Look at my hand shape. Okay, I'm telling you, this thing is the coolest. So again, guys, I hope this helps. I hope that you've been getting something out of my first few lessons I've posted. The initial finger exercise stuff, you know, I know that gets a little tedious, boring, but it's so important to kind of just build your hand strength up, build your coordination, you know, build your left and your right hand working together. It takes a minute to get that coordination down. So we're starting to get into actually playing music now. So hang in there and keep working, and I'll be back in a week or so and we'll move on, okay? Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you soon.